Welcome back to the Bentonville Beacon podcast, where we're sharing stories and advice from the entrepreneurs, business executives, and community leaders sparking the rise of the greater Bentonville area, which represents one of the fastest growing and most dynamic cities and economies in the United States, and is nestled in the Ozark Mountains of Northwest Arkansas in the heartland of America. Hey, I'm your host, James Bell, and today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Brooke Bierhaus Sutton, who is co-founder and owner of Third Space Coffee, a beloved coffee haven nestled inside Best Friends Pet Resource Center in Bentonville. Brooke's journey isn't just about crafting exceptional coffee. It's also a narrative of defying conventional paths and embracing the power of collaboration. And Third Space Coffee isn't merely a place to grab a cup of joe. It's a community hub where connections are forged, ideas are exchanged, and dreams are nurtured. Brooke, welcome to the Bentonville Beacon.
Thank you. What an incredible introduction. I loved that. You're a magician at words.
Oh, I do what I do. Well, let's start with the easy question, Brooke. What would you like the Bentonville Beacon audience to know about you?
Oh man, first and foremost, I'm always wanting people to know that what I work on and what I do is truly from this being where I want people to feel like welcome and always just like accessible. I want the people listening to know that like I am an accessible person. If you want to come and talk, if you ever just want to like grab coffee or connect. But I'm sure that's not necessarily what we need to start talking about. First, I'm a documentary filmmaker by trade and turned into a food anthropologist, coffee culturist, and really focused on entrepreneurial efforts, and then opening up and co-founder of Third Space Coffee, which has taken a lot of my time over the 9 months. So I wear many hats. But I am really excited about the work that I get to do in the community.
That's cool. You have a really neat combination of experiences and background.
It's wild. That you do. Yeah.
That is so cool. Will you talk about this journey from documentary filmmaker to founding a coffee shop? What's the story there? Absolutely.
So I always kind of joke that I didn't expect to have a coffee shop. I always kind of like circumnavigated coffee in my work as a documentary filmmaker, but I had so much inspiration from incredible coffee farmers, from women-run and women-led businesses around the world. And every single time I have shared this news with those people who have influenced me a lot around the globe, I tell them and let them know that I'm now a proud owner of a coffee shop. And everyone always says, "Of course you are. Like, we knew that." What? We knew that would happen. So I kind of love that it was always kind of meant to be. But my first documentary, The Connected Cup, is a look at coffee and tea around the world as a global language. And it's really this idea that regardless of where you come from, your lived experiences, what language you speak, especially what language you speak, we can truly understand each other if we just share a cup of coffee or tea. And it was 4.5 years of just a passion project of mine that I would do as I was working with nonprofits and NGOs, mostly focused on clean water and female education around the world. But I was doing documentaries on wildlife conservation and multiple different things. And when I would work for those like nonprofits, I would then stay an extra like anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, sometimes 6 months at a time, working with either farmers or coffee shop owners, tea farmers, and then having like this whole amazing array of interviews that eventually became a culmination of 8 different countries, 8 different languages. The Connected Cup is a story of humanity and that shared common experience. So It was like coffee culture was always a big focus for me. And then the interesting thing is that when I moved to Northwest Arkansas, I didn't necessarily see myself like, we're such a coffee hub. I love it. Mm-hmm. And like incredible just coffee roasters, coffee houses to go to. And I loved the culture here. And it was a big part of why I wanted to stay. I was like, wow, okay, shared visions and missions for what coffee can do. And I'm sure we'll get to it. I'm going to tease it a little bit. We'll get to it later in the podcast. But the relationship with opening up a coffee shop connected to the animal welfare and life-saving work that Best Friends does, and in this incredible location that is just, I'm so excited. We'll talk about it soon. But that all came about through my work as a storyteller with downtown Bentonville. And so the city itself was a big reason as to how this coffee shop itself in this third place that I'm fascinated with, the idea of third places, all came to be. But it was like through my understanding of coffee culture, of what it takes to really have a specialty coffee shop and provide specialty coffee, as well as our coffee roasters, the Quapaw Nation. Ogapa Roasters came from another documentary that I was working on with Quapaw Nation. So it's like the storytelling aspect is really what led me to open up a coffee shop, but it's very layered because of all the people who are so involved in it.
What a neat story.
I don't know if that's too many layers, but I'm sure we'll just dissect everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, I love hearing people's founding stories and what led them, because never do I guess the story right.
Sure.
There's always some complex story behind it. And this is a really cool story. So you founded Third Space Coffee.
Yes, with my husband and our business partner. So Don and Jose Miguel and myself are all, the three of us, co-founders of Third Space.
Perfect. And you brought me this
I
cup
did.
of coffee today.
I brought you
wonderful.
our,
Thank you.
You're welcome. I brought you our Makosha roast. It means dark medicine water in Quapaw.
Nice.
If you can already tell, I kind of love languages, but that is also a Makosha. The dark medicine water makes me think, oh, great, we're giving people medicine. You know,
Excellent.
I love it.
I love it. I'm hearing lots of intent, lots of intention behind the things that you do.
Yeah.
Really cool. Well, you mentioned Northwest Arkansas and Bentonville and coffee shops. We do have this density of, unlike anywhere I've ever been, of independent and craft coffee shops. In Northwest Arkansas, but especially in Greater Bentonville.
Yes.
And they're all unique and special in their own way. Will you talk about the uniqueness and how special Third Space Coffee is?
Definitely. I could talk about that all day. So thanks for asking. I think one big thing about Third Space is that we, even in the name, like we teased how we're a third place. Now, third places are needed in society. They're not home or the office. They're this place where it needs to be accessible and public to everyone, which coffee houses are. And there's like a nice financial accessibility where some restaurants are a little more expensive and it cuts off as like a third place. Coffee houses are just that like nice, inviting, you know what you're going to get pretty much everywhere you go. The banter is great. And we like the idea of being a space, not necessarily a place, because now this is where my master's thesis is in third places and
Excellent.
The cultivation of coffee shop atmospheres. So we were very intentional with choosing space as our part of our name, because spaces can become places, but that indicates that there's room to grow. And with us being, this is our first location, incredible, but it is our first location. And we weren't sure what that was going to look like. And we wanted people to be able to come in, and it's an experience-led coffee shop. We have dogs available for adoption. We have cats available for adoption and fostering. We also have a little cat cafe style right next to, when you order at our window, you can look over and there's this huge 6 feet like plexiglass where you can look in and see anywhere from 2 to, I think at one time we had like 18 cats in there.
Wow. It
was nuts. And there's even ways that it's up at a bar area. You can look in and like interact with the cats. We have some
fishing poles.
Yes,
yeah.
You saw those, the fishing poles. Did your son get to play with them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He loves
totally.
doing that.
So it's really cool. We always say that like we're not just connecting people through or we're not just connecting humans to humans. We're connecting them to humans to nature, humans to wildlife, and I guess wildlife pets really is the right term for that. But it's really just having this space where maybe it's not a day where you get a lot of work done. We're probably great for that because, there's a lot of things to see and do. But maybe it is a day where you put headphones in and you just want to work somewhere that's a good energy and around good people. And that's what we want to provide. And I think the animals definitely set us apart from a lot of the other atmospheres of the different coffee shops in Bentonville. But I think something else that really sets us apart is our team. Like when you come in, you'll immediately feel at home because our baristas are just incredible at making sure everyone feels comfortable. Like the first time that they walk into the Pet Resource Center is likely the first time that they've been in anywhere like this because it's the first of its kind right here in Bentonville, which is nuts. And we do a lot of education, just letting people know what it is and letting them know that you don't have to adopt, you don't have to foster, but these animals get a chance to get introduced to a bunch of different auras and people and energies, and they're more likely to get adopted. It's incredible.
So somehow we've gotten in and out of there repeatedly without adopting an animal.
Only a matter of time.
My wife says she's the first listener to every episode of this show. Gets up early on Mondays to make sure that happens, I guess. But I absolutely believe her because she tells me about them later. And I don't think she's ready for us to get another pet yet.
Okay.
But we've got a 3.5-year-old boy. And by the way, tomorrow, our new baby girl will be 6 weeks old.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations. Yeah. 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
okay.
We might still be on delay for a pet.
You need this coffee today.
But yeah, exactly. We might still be on delay for this pet for a little bit. But I anticipate someday we're going to walk into Best Friends and walk out with a best friend. Yeah.
We do always say that it's kind of like a grandparent effect when you come in because the cats, you can get the energy out with the kids, they can play with the cats, and then that'll kind of satisfy them for a while until you do want to adopt. But that's great.
Exactly. Well, we've talked about some of this, but do you want to expand on the name of Third Space Coffee and in particular the mission and the values of your cafe?
Sure. So we did talk a little bit about the third place and being a space and how we want people to feel like they're a part of something this is like I mentioned, our first coffee shop, our brick and mortar shop. And so it's little things like our punch cards where people come in and then they sign it and they're up on our wall when they fill out their entire punches and get that free drink. Sure. And that's a material way that the community has become involved in shaping this new shop and idea and mission. But it's really cool because we've seen how we've listened to the community that we're serving. And it's okay, so we want to offer, we're a fully vegan coffee shop, which is also unique. I don't know how I glazed over that, but we have oat, almond, and coconut as our main milk choices. But also that means that all of our freshly baked goods in-house are all plant-based. Majority of them are gluten-free. I'm celiac. And so when I was traveling, I accumulated a lot of incredible recipes that are naturally gluten-free or at least have some alternatives to them. But baking gluten-free and plant-based is incredibly hard. That is incredibly hard. But we knew we had to offer some really delicious sweets and things. And immediately we're okay, let's serve this community because there is there's a missing gap with that fully plant-based. And while we do have some gluten-free specific, more than I would say most areas in Arkansas and surrounding states probably do, Bentonville has a lot of great gluten-free bakeries and restaurants, but that plant-based side of it was kind of lacking. And so we've noticed just a lot of people coming in that have intolerances or true dietary restrictions. A lot of people with alpha-gal, celiac, egg situations where they're allergic. And so I love providing a space that's also really safe for people. Being someone who always has a hard time choosing, I almost never have a true option at cafes. I watched this little girl come in one day, and her dad was like, "What do you want to get from the bakery display?" And she whispered to him like, "Dad, I'm allergic to eggs. I can't have anything." He's like, no. It's all plant. Like, there's no eggs in any of this. And he looks at me and he's like, "Right?" So, yeah, we don't use any eggs. That face lit up. I think they left with like 2 strawberry cupcakes, muffin top. They had a croissant, you know. And I just love being able to offer that. And I know that probably goes back to the question of like what makes us different. So sorry to be answering that as a little bit late.
Totally okay.
But the name itself, like we really wanted to provide something that was different, and maybe kind of played on that third wave coffee, you know, idea. And we also, the 3 of us, we were like, okay, 3, that's kind of nice. And even in our logo, I'm going to like hold it, just if you don't mind me holding your cup, to use as an example for video viewers. Perfect. So we have like our logo itself was also really intentional. It's in the shape of a diamond because we're the natural state, right? We also have the sun. That was really important to us, to be this like shining bright light on someone's day. And people who come in, they could be having an awful day, but if you get just 3 to 5 minutes to make it better, you're doing something right. And so then we have our little eye there, because we just love, like, we use this phrase of you only know as much as you know, right? And that sounds kind of silly or Yoda-esque, but we don't know what we don't know. Yeah. And so when we do learn something from other people, and humans are all our teachers, like, oh, okay, our eyes are like, oh, wow, we actually know and see what we know now. And so then the coffee bean, of course, is the eye because of the coffee. So all those little things. And then even from like our branding, we're yellow and using a lot of the Oz colors and just wanting to be a part of the community. But we also knew that we wanted to carve out something that could be interpreted in many different ways. And so it's just it's really a labor of love, but it's also intentional from like where we source things and how we bake and our recipes and our coffee being roasted in Quapaw and operating on ancestral land of the Quapaw, Caddo, and Osage. Like all those things really play into it, and it's really special.
That is really neat. I had not thought about the color and everything, but you know, you refers to Oz.
Yes.
Of course, Oz we use for the Ozark Mountains. But if you've never been here and seen an Ozark sunset,
oh, you're missing out.
You're missing out. The colors are just different than you will see in other places. It's pretty incredible. We talked about best friends a little bit, but if you want to expand on it, feel free. How does being inside Best Friends, how does that fit even further with your vision for the cafe and its impact on the community?
Oh, man. Seeing how people immediately get this therapeutic release from animals is just so, I feel so privileged to watch it every single day. There's always something new that's going on. And it really is such a community space when it comes to like even our food pantry. I see people coming in for if they're having a hard time, like in transition of life or something, and they want to keep their pet, but they just don't have the financial means to get food for cats or dogs. They just come into Best Friends and they leave with enough food for the next like few weeks, I think even a month or two. Mm-hmm. And so seeing that and seeing how happy people are to like not have to give up their animal and then also see all these like incredible dogs and cats that are getting a second chance at life. Like we're really, really fortunate to operate inside of there. And Best Friends, we really aligned with their values, so even our cups like fully compostable and just the sustainability side we know is important for animals as well. And so from that, and then also being fully plant-based, like a vegan coffee shop that also really aligned with Best Friends and sort of their mission too. And it's just something different, but we've really been given a chance to grow and with them, and they've given us a lot of support and just this opportunity itself. It's really cool how they got a ton of proposals. Mm-hmm. And I remember the founders of Best Friends as like the full nonprofit. It's, I think, about 12 of them from the 80s or so. Sure. And when we met them for grand opening, they were like, we wanted a small business. We wanted young professionals, which all of us are in our 30s, and they're like, it's so cool to see this new wave of like just new fresh spirit, I guess, or energy. And it was cool that from the beginning, they were also really intentional about who they chose, and they could have gone with, a big chain or more recognizable name. And they were like, no, let's take a chance on Third Space. I like that they have something different. And so our partnership is really important to us.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of partnerships and thinking about the community, you're right next door to this development of the 8th Street Gateway Park.
Yes.
How do you see that affecting your business, and how do you envision potential collaborations and opportunities as a result?
Definitely. We are so excited for the 8th Street Gateway Park. The renderings look incredible. Yeah. We were fortunate enough to at least, be able to see that before even putting our proposal in. And that way we knew location wise, because you talk to anybody and it's location when you're opening up a business. And I do think right now it is kind of hard to get people over to, we're off of 8th Street, turning into Melissa. And you'll see sometimes like cars parked on 8th Street already, right? Like they can walk through to a trail that is right in front of our building and our cafe, or you can park in our parking lot. But getting people out there right now has been tough. I think just like once the park opens, it will help so much to get people to be like, oh yeah, that's where that is. I've been meaning to go and visit them. You can just say 8th Street Gateway Park and people will know. And so that will be huge for us. But also it aligns with our mission of like connecting people, humans to nature, humans to wildlife, humans to pets, and just doing all of that through coffee. And, we also look at Airship at Kohler, and we see how amazing that is. And I remember when they opened and kind of it not being very busy for a while. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, this is so rad. You can go have coffee in nature. And I think Mark and the Airship team gives us hope that could be something that Third Space is able to provide when it comes to having a coffee. Like we have our bike up, walk up window on our exterior patio. And if people don't want to come inside to order. And so I think that will be utilized a lot. And I'm hoping people will grab that and go use either like the skate park, which that drop-in skate park looks incredible. There's a full, I think it was like a cylinder track and everything as well. And there will likely be like food trucks sometimes during the weekends and markets. And I think I truly believe, and so does Don and Jose Miguel, that here there's enough for everyone. Like we're not,
that's right.
There's enough to share, and we just want, if one of us does well in the community, then others will do well too. And so I think for us, the park is just another bright step. I do figure there probably will be some growing pains as the park gets really settled, people knowing where to park, all of that. We see that now with 8th Street Market. Like I know development is hard. There is a growing pain through that and transition, but I'm hoping people will still come and see us through all of that, and we'll keep them updated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's really neat. Let's stay on this this streak with partnerships.
Great.
What other community partnerships have helped you as you've been building a growing Third Space Coffee?
Definitely. Well, I mean, I would be remiss to not mention the Chamber of Commerce, of course.
Thank you.
Yes. You've been huge in allowing us to really get connected with other businesses as well, and be a part of the community, and to either like give some of our time, but also to be given a lot of insight and connections as well. A huge partnership that I think I've probably mentioned like a couple times, but not fully expanded on, is our roasters at a Quapaw Nation. So Ogapa Coffee is one of only a handful of indigenous coffee roasters who roast on tribal ground. And Quapaw is just about 65 minutes or so from here in the northeast corner of Oklahoma. And so like kind of close to like that Joplin, like tri-state border. And they have been absolutely fantastic. And I'm happy to talk more about our initial connection with them if you'd like to. But yeah, go for it. Yeah, so you're cool with me going ahead? Okay,
absolutely.
Cool. I don't want to diverge too much. But in 2020, I started working on a short documentary called Regeneration of Land and Culture. And it was a look at the reintroduction of the buffalo back to native land.
Oh, wow.
And it's incredible work that Quapaw does. They are, the Quapaw Cattle Company raises buffalo, and I use the term buffalo. It's also American bison, but Quapaw calls them buffalo. They have a buffalo clan. So just out of respect, I also call them buffalo as well. And our tie there was initially, I just was curious to learn more about Quapaw Nation. My father and my ancestral lineage is out of Quapaw, and he passed when I was really young. Same with a lot of his side. So I didn't really know much about that until I moved to Northwest Arkansas. And I was like, wait, I'm only 60 minutes from where we have some sort of, paternal ties. This is crazy. And then I saw more about the cattle and the buffalo, and then their meat processing center. It's the only USDA meat processing center in the U.S. I think they're open on tribal ground. Yeah. Cool. And they are helping other nations figure out like how to do that as well. So you literally are, miles away from where it's raised and then processed. And then also markets where it's sold. And so it's just really interesting. And as I'm getting this full view of all of the different ways that they have food systems going on in Quapaw and their sustainability aspects, they have this huge coffee roaster where they roast all of the coffee for downstream casino. And at the time, it was just for downstream. And they were like, well, we sell some of it in our C-stores and online. And I didn't think much of it at the time. It was 2020. And this opportunity to have a coffee shop or at least put our hat in the ring hadn't even come about yet. But Jose Miguel, our business partner, worked for Quapaw Nation and still continues to a little bit, but he's back in Puerto Rico now. And we just kept thinking, if we're going to have coffee that's different, but also honors that aspect that we're so tied to and are first caregivers of this land, it has to be Quapaw. And so we just, they have fantastic roasters. We work with a medium roast there and all of the, most of our coffee is medium roast, but just even from getting some of the beans, they try to source as indigenous as possible. And I just love those tie-ins. And so once the documentary had come out at Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival in 2021, that was officially when we had, I think it was the day before the premiere of the short documentary. And we had Chairman Bird was there, or the former chair of Quapaw Nation, which they don't use a chief system anymore. It's all chairs, business committee. So, but the leader of Quapaw Nation at the time got to come to the premiere and everything for the film. And we got to sit down and then later share that, okay, we have a coffee shop that's going to be a real thing in 2 years. Are you cool with us? Can we partner? Could we honor Quapaw and share something with the community and with Ogapa? And that was the start of it. It was just incredible how storytelling brought this other very commodity focused aspect, but it's always about connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that neat? I forgot what I was going to say, but I can
get long-winded sometimes too. So
that is such a cool story. I know what I was going to say. Again, we're right back to being really intentional about what you're doing, which is really cool.
Thanks.
So when did you come to Northwest Arkansas?
I moved here. My things were here in 2019.
Okay.
And I had no real, end of 2019, I think it was August. Actually, I know it was August because I actually met my husband the same day that I moved here.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. Nice job.
Yes, I know. Not going to say that if you move to Northwest Arkansas, to Bentonville in particular, that you're going to find your husband on the first day. But the track record is pretty good, for me anyway. But my mom had moved here and I knew nothing about Northwest Arkansas. I ran track at University of Iowa and we had a meet at the U of A. And I was like, this is a cool campus. So literally, other than that, I did not know much about Arkansas. But I'd heard things. I think people always acting like it's some like secret or weird little hick town or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I had heard things before. Like, yeah, you know, like I knew that this was like kind of a cool space. But other than that, I was just helping my mom move in. And I'd been remote for a very long time, especially being freelance. And then, as I mentioned before, with those years of a lot of my work is just overseas international filmmaking. And I had a documentary I was filming, September of 2019 in the West Bank, in Tel Aviv, and in Jerusalem. And so I was going to stay there for about 3 months. Mm-hmm. And something about this place, I was like, I think I want to come back and do post-production here. I don't want to go anywhere else. And it also helps that Dawn, I was like, I might want to keep talking to this guy.
Right.
And so, yeah, you know. And so I came back, and by the end of 2019, I was like, gosh, okay, this could be it for me. I love the natural just aspects of it and how close you are to nature. And the art scene was just getting so big. I think the Momentary opened in that like February or March of that 2020, the next, just a few months later. And Crystal Bridges obviously already being here. And I just loved the entrepreneurial spirit of this place as well. And then COVID happened, as is a very similar story, I feel like, for a lot of people. But all the work that I had originally planned for films in Nairobi and outside of Rio, I was like, gosh, I can't do any filming here. What stories are here that I could maybe work on and do? And so Downtown Bentonville was putting together, I reached out to Dana at Downtown Bentonville Incorporated, who's fantastic. And she was putting together a storytelling platform to do called Downtown Now, where we would do stories of the community. And so summer of 2020 on through, I feel like I got an incredible opportunity to just get connected with so many different businesses and people that are really making change here in Bentonville specific. And yeah, I mean, you asked me when I moved here, but I just went into like how much I love this place and why, but I have not looked back.
That's great. Well, it's helping you live your best life.
It really is. Yes.
Yeah. Tell me a story then. Tell me, we're going to call this a hashtag because Bentonville story. That's something that happened where you look back at it and you think, I think that could only happen here, or it describes the essence of the community.
Absolutely. That's the perfect question, actually, that lead in. It's like we're on the same page, because working with Downtown Now in downtown Bentonville, I asked Dana, I was like, do you know anyone who does animal, like dog adoptions or anything that we could showcase on the story as a story? Osage Park had just opened. I wanted to get something from Three Dog Bakery because I wanted to make sure Bobby and everyone in downtown, we got like a dog treat, and we took an adoptable dog out to go explore Osage Park. And Kristen Switzer, the campaign director for Best Friends Animal Society, like Pet Resource Center, she was like, yeah, let's take a dog out. So I got connected with her. And as we're just like having this great conversation and going out for this story about Osage Park, she's telling me about the Pet Resource Center. Oh, wow. At the time, I think they just broke ground. Like they had the shovel and breaking ground ceremony. And she was like, yeah, but we really want it to have some sort of cafe or coffee shop. We just aren't happy with what we've been like given at the moment of like proposals. We're still taking some for the next couple of months. And I was like, well, I might know someone. Jose Miguel had 2 really successful coffee shops in Puerto Rico before he sold them off. It's like, I'll talk to him. Still kind of not throwing my hat in there. I was just like, I know someone. I can connect you in a true producer way. And not long after, right, we put our proposal in. We're like, I think we can actually make this work. And I really believe that could only happen in Bentonville. That initial connection of like working on a storytelling platform, it truly was me reaching out to Dana, to Kristen, to Best Friends. It's like these little just, hey, just curious if I could, be involved somehow. This is my prerequisites. I would love to talk. Something about this area, people really lend their time. And I really believe that could only really happen here. And so Third Space Coffee is the manifestation of like all of that. the culmination of all those connections and things.
Oh, that's awesome. You're right though. I mean, people talk about you've got to make connections with people and meet people to get to do stuff, and maybe it'll open up doors of opportunity for you. But here, it's a shortcut to opportunity.
Oh my gosh.
You meet somebody and they get a sense for what it is that you want to be part of, and they immediately grab you and pull you in and say, let's do it. And there's not a lot of gatekeeping. There's not a lot of folks going, I don't know, I just met this person. Everybody just on faith jumps in and really wants to help each other and build and grow. And I think that's just the nature of our community and why it's grown the way it has.
I agree. Yeah, wholeheartedly.
Well, creating a coffee shop from the ground up surely has created some challenges.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear some of the challenges that you faced and how you've addressed them. And maybe you can offer the audience some advice. If you can give them some advice on tackling new and perhaps unknown challenges.
Yes, I can definitely do that. How long do you have? No, we have had the opportunity. As I said, I do think it is a privilege to listen to the community. It's also one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, which is be vulnerable enough to open a business when I knew the aesthetic of it was not where I wanted it to be when we opened. We got our certificate of occupancy 7 days before we had our grand opening.
Oh, wow.
And the grand opening was with Best Friends. It was huge. So they are a US-based national nonprofit. And their New York office brought in event planners and coordinators. And so they had this huge 4-day grand opening. So really we had 3 days to get ready, to train new staff members, to let people to have all of our equipment ready and necessary items. And the walls were just kind of blank in there for me. I was like, oh my gosh, we don't have a merch cart. We don't even have any type of merch except for our shirts that we had. Just little things that I didn't feel like the menu was really the only thing that was ready. It truly was. But that's just how it goes. And so we were vulnerable enough to be like, okay, we know we have a quality product. The rest will happen. And I say that as nonchalantly as possible because it was 80-hour weeks where I was just trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? But I think the hardest part of that was just listening to a lot of feedback where it's the you should. When I hear you should, and it elicits this response in my whole body that's oh my gosh, you don't know the half of it. I've already thought of that. But I think being humble enough to just realize, okay, most people are coming from a place of help and respect. And so being okay with kind of putting ourselves out there and people expecting, that we have incredible coffee shops here, aesthetically pleasing, great atmosphere. And so when people go to a new coffee shop, they're expecting them to already have that.
That's right.
And I'm like, okay, but the places that you see now had 15 years to get to where they are. Was it the same just, when they started 20 years ago? It's being allowed to be a new business here and grow with it. And I think I'm not the best at this, but my husband, Don, is great at this. And as a business partner, he is always remember how far we've come in this amount of time. Think about what we're doing. So what we've done in 9 months, imagine what we can do in 2 years. And we just keep on kind of saying how cool it is to enjoy the journey. And so for people who are starting and they're oh gosh, I don't want to start until everything's perfect.
Oh yeah.
I think that needs to just go out the window. You start when you start. And then as it gets perfect or close to it as the days go on, right? It gets better and better. And it's really cool to be able to see it. But I think even little things from when you own a business, you're the bookkeeper, you're, fixing things. The amount of times I have brought out my drill or tried to get, plumbing done and figured it out, trying to figure out the espresso machine. We had a few things get damaged in our first one. We had water damage happen the first 2 months of being in business that damaged our grinder. So we couldn't have espresso-based drinks, but we had another piece of equipment that could do batched espresso. And so just being adaptable and flexible. And I think communicating to to customers was a really huge thing for us too. Like we just, especially social media and any way that we do, it's very personable really. And we just want to have that connection. We don't really try to curate too much. We want it to feel like a friend. And so Third Space itself has been that. But yeah, it's a tough thing to open a business. And I have so much respect for anyone who does it.
Yeah, it is so hard opening a business. I love the part where you just effectively said, just start.
Just start, yeah.
I like to tell new business owners or people creating a new product or whatever that if where you start doesn't embarrass you a little bit, you went too far.
Yes.
You went way too far. You're way past the point of where you should have started.
That's great advice.
As we start wrapping up, I'm going to ask you I'll ask you a couple of whimsical questions to get into your head, learn a little bit more about how you think.
Sure.
And the first one I have for you is, imagine you're creating a documentary. You're producing a documentary about the secret life of coffee. What's the plot twist?
So in my mind, the documentary is going to be more of a like stop motion style.
Okay.
And we would have the coffee beans all trying to like get people, they're trying to tell their story. But all people want to hear is how much caffeine is in it. So it's like, oh, no, we drink it because it's all the caffeine. And all the coffee beans are like, no, we actually want to connect people. Like we have a story too. And so the entire time it could be kind of like a children's documentary, but it would be like what we see on the surface is not the whole story. And it's like, okay, caffeine, yes, but also what else could it be? So something cheesy like that.
You should make it happen. If anything, you can make that into a children's book. I think that would be a really neat children's book.
Cool.
The other one I have for you is, if Third Space Coffee had a secret menu and it was inspired by myths and legends, what would one item be on it and what would its backstory be?
Oh, I love that. I think we could call it the Dancing Goat Buna. Buna is coffee in Amharic, which is spoken in Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is commonly referred to as the birthplace of coffee. There's some distinction with Yemen and Ethiopia, but the folklore of it, the background goes that a farmer in Ethiopia was tending to his goats and realized that they were kind of like coming back almost a little buzzed in a way. They had the eyes and stuff. They were like jittery and dancing. He saw them dancing and he was like, what are they doing? So then he followed them the next day and noticed them eating the leaves off of the coffee trees. They were growing in trees, the wild coffee forest in Ethiopia, but also could be on plants too. But so he notices that the next day he harvests some of the leaves and makes a tea. And then he's like, okay, the leaves are pretty good, but I wonder what these fruit are like. And so he's just eating the fruits, coffee being a fruit with the cherry outside, and then that like inside where we have a full preparation now for how to roast and use it. But I think it's kind of interesting how that started. And it would be fun to pay homage to that.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. There's another one.
Yeah, I think I might use that.
Start producing.
Yeah.
We'll only have a couple of questions left for you, Brooke.
Yeah.
The first one is, if somebody wants to reach you or learn more about Third Space Coffee, how do they do it?
Definitely. Well, like I said at the very beginning, I am very accessible. If you come into Third Space Coffee, I am there most days. But also you can follow us on Instagram. We're at thirdspace.coffee. And I'm the one who manages our social media. And so very responsive there. You can call us. I have not memorized our business number, so I cannot give that to you right now.
GOOGLE.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, using Google, figuring out where we are, super helpful. And also on Facebook as well. Or if you go to www.thirdspacecoffee.co, that's our website. It'll give you some more information. And then personally, if you want to follow me, my Instagram is at Beyond with Brooke. I think life is better beyond. So that's why that is my handle. But yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Last question. Brooke.
Yes.
What's something I should have asked you that I did not ask?
Ooh. Well, you did a really great job. I think maybe you could have asked if I'm a mountain biker, which I would tell you I'm not really. I would love to be. I like gravel riding a lot, but I'm a trail runner who loves using the trails. And so anyone who ever wants to come and run, we also do have that leads into, we do have a first Sunday and third Sunday at Third Space Coffee. We have what's called Sunday 70. And nice. So it's for those who want to do, if you want to do a long run or you want to do 70 minutes of walking, whatever it is, movement of some kind, you can meet new people and be kind of a different community that's not necessarily biking focused, but more on movement and running. And we meet at Third Space at 7 on Sundays cool. at 70.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, come see us.
You know, I have a mountain bike. My mountain bike is beautiful. My riding is not.
I get that.
There was a day when I used to run a lot. I think I'm more of a walker now. My knees don't run.
Anything to get outside is great. And we have so many of the beautiful trails here. So as long as you're using them.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Brooke, thanks. You know, your insights, I think, really brilliantly illustrate what Bentonville's all about. It really, the innovative spirit, the dynamic growth of Bentonville happens because of people like you. There are so many people just driving this place forward. And I love the amount of intention behind everything that you're doing.
Thanks.
It's so cool. If, you know, the audience hasn't checked out Third Space Coffee yet, go do it. Adopt a dog or a cat at Best Friends while you're there, or go pet one.
Yeah.
But
love that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brooke.
Thank you.
For coming on the show.
Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you to our audience. Appreciate your this loyal audience, and thank you for tuning in and sharing your time with us. You know, Brooke's story is one of many that highlight the remarkable individuals, businesses, and other organizations shaping the greater Bentonville area. And I invite you to spread the word about today's episode with your peers and your loved ones. So whether you're watching this episode on bentonvillebeacon.com or on YouTube, or you're enjoying it on your favorite podcast platform, don't forget to hit subscribe to stay up to date with the latest episodes. And continue this journey with us in meeting the entrepreneurs and business executives and community leaders who are driving Bentonville and Northwest Arkansas forward. Experience the richness of our community, where you get more of what you want and less of what you don't. Until we meet again, take care, and we'll see you next time on the Bentonville Beacon podcast.